to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, welcome in. It's football time, yeah. Oh, I half expected Papa Josh to take over the It's Football Time after yesterday's performance.
The glory days for Papa Josh.
He was getting a lot of positive feedback on that.
Which I would like to talk to the YouTube commenters. Our job, I think, is clear. Our job is to dunk on the deucers, tell them what bad jobs they've done. But the YouTube commenters usually are very kind to the deucers. And sympathetic,
yeah,
wonderful people.
Yeah, it's like the Make-A-Wish kids stuff,
right? And so, I just want to thank our audience for being so kind to such losers because they need that. They build them up, build these little guys up.
Yeah. I agree. We do need that. So thank you.
Yeah, Al Borland. In the house, we've got a Thursday episode of the show.
Al, you're looking good in that white jacket. I like it.
Thanks, man.
He doesn't wear non-black, so it's always
It's a hand-me-down from a good buddy of mine.
Oh, is that really?
Is that yours?
It's Jason's old jacket.
Oh, that's fun. I had no idea I was complimenting myself.
Now, why'd you give him the jacket?
I think it didn't fit me, probably.
Correct. It probably does now.
But I think I want it back.
Oh, okay. All right. Well. Great show today. NFL news, starts of the week, fantasy forecast, parlay, partay. Lots going on. Big waiver day yesterday, and teams getting primed. I ended up getting Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Took the shot.
Much
to Al Borland's chagrin.
I ended up in Dynasty getting Amir Abdullah. So, we each have our big wins.
Yeah, no, you paid up. Your Jason's dynasty team has no running backs to start.
They're all on bye.
And so Amir Abdullah was your best choice, which I read something this morning that Dylan Laube is going to be a big part of the offense.
I hope he is, because that means that Zamir White and Alexander Madison aren't playing.
So Abdullah would have a role.
Exactly.
Okay. Jointhefoot.com, where you can find the ultimate dashboard, a bonus weekly episode of the podcast, all of our premium tools and resources, the Discord community access. Everything can be found at jointhefoot.com. Come and hang out with us. About 40,000 strong in the Foot Clan, and we love you guys. We appreciate you, and the community is awesome. A reminder, click that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Drop us a review if you've got a few minutes. You can follow the show on YouTube. Watch it, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers. Jay Grizz sitting in today and already sporting the crown from last week. So we've got 3 crowns to put on today.
Yeah, it feels good to be, we 3 kings.
7 of the last 9 have been hits, which is making me just more at peace with who we are as human beings. Because I think in the beginning we had a rough stretch. We had a rough stretch, and we were maybe playing it too safe, less about
conviction, more about line, and now we're trying to find things we really believe in.
Yeah, I think,
and it's working.
Yeah, it's been fun. Let's jump into some news.
News and notes from around the league, presented by USAA Insurance.
I had not seen this news.
The first piece of news?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not too worried, but I also don't have him as my start of the week.
Yeah, so you saw that, did you? Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith did not practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury.
We'll talk about him more in a minute.
Get to monitor that. Noah Fant didn't practice. He's missed the last 2 games for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if someone's missing games, that's bad. With Devontae Smith, the Wednesday reports, you take them all with a grain of salt. If he misses a Thursday with a hamstring, you start getting worried.
George Kittle, limited on Wednesday, says he's going to play.
Oh, he's playing. He's for sure playing. He says he can't pass up playing against the Packers. He'll be out there for sure.
Well, there you go. That's good news. Zamir White, Alexander Madison didn't practice. Monitor both of them, and whether or not Abdullah and Laube are the lucky guys getting to start for the Raiders. Tajay Spears didn't practice. It's going to be hard-pressed for him to get out there with the concussion. And then Ridley didn't practice due to illness. He should be okay. Josh Jacobs, limited due to quad and calf injuries. Also another one to monitor. And we have go ahead.
Marshawn Lloyd went on the NFI list for his appendicitis. So it'll be a couple weeks before he's back as well.
Yes. So monitor those. And we have an Injury Blitz podcast that's part of the Join the Foot perks. Comes out on Friday featuring our injury expert, Matthew Betts. And we'll have the practice reports the rest of the week. That was today's news and notes presented by USAA Insurance. Learn more at usaa.com/insurance.
Starts of the week.
Why don't you kick it off at wide receiver?
Well, is that where we're going to start? Let's
Sure.
just do it. I mean, Devontae Smith was, I guess currently still is my pick at start of the week, plays the Rams. Now, it's Sunday night, so if there's doubt, I would pivot out because, there are other options, and if you don't know going into, I would say by Saturday, if you don't know definitively that he's fine, which, look, we could get a practice report in a matter of minutes that he is practicing today. It's been up and down for Devontae Smith. We talked about him extensively yesterday. This is about the matchup. This is about a 49-point over-under. This is about the Eagles having a 26-point implied total. This is about the Rams being dead last against wide receivers. This is a opportunity to play a guy that's been up and down in a great matchup, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah.
So Devontae Smith with an asterisk as of this morning's practice report.
Yeah, I still expect that he'll play and be a good play this week. I don't think it's a bad start of the week. Obviously, needs to play for that to come to fruition. My wide receiver start of the week is a guy that people are loving, people are starting, but still undervaluing what Juwan Jennings is for the San Francisco 49ers. He's their wide receiver one. You've got Deebo Samuel, you got George Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk's injury, and all the names ahead of him. Christian McCaffrey's back. But Juwan Jennings, in the games where he's been a full-time starter, you're talking 12 targets, 11 targets, 11 targets. His behind-the-scenes metrics, they're off the charts. He's targeted on 27% of his routes.
They tried to put him in the charts. They couldn't fit him.
No, because they're off.
They're off the charts.
The printer didn't print far enough. He's averaging 2.84 yards per route run. That's outstanding. 28% of the team's first read targets. That is wide receiver one alpha type of stuff. In fact, those three metrics, those three great behind-the-scenes metrics, you want to know the only other wide receivers who have hit all three of those this year? Nico Collins, A.J. Brown, and Justin Jefferson. So Juwan Jennings is like not someone you can start. He is someone you can't bench.
Well put. Well put. That connection's been there all year long, and if you dig deeper on the Deebo metrics this season, they're not good.
No, and I went back and watched a little bit of film, and there were just plays where it's like, Deebo always gets that play, and he didn't.
He's not playing well, and this is not out of character. He had a really down year 2 years ago and even talked about it after the season, just saying he played poorly. I believe I saw something about three of his four catches last week were against Prevent in the end of halves, so he wasn't even accumulating his minimal production against the primary defenses. We'll pivot here. Running back, we'll go in a random order than we normally do. Running back's going to be Devon Achane against New England. I think he can be the number one overall running back on the week as my start of the week. He has averaged over 20 fantasy points per game when Tua has been his quarterback. That is near the peak in the league. I believe Mixon's at 21.7 for the running back one. This is 20.6. He's right there. The reception totals, the fact that this offense just looks fundamentally different, the Waddle downfield stuff not happening, Tyreek down the field not happening. They're willing to get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly, and Achane is a perfect target for that. New England struggling against running backs. This could be the best week of the year for Achane. Yeah,
it really could be. I worry a little bit about the passing volume there, just because they're not going to need to if they are beating him, and that's where Achane's done a lot. But Achane's so good.
Well, and New England with Drake May has been staying in games and throwing the football.
Yeah, I really hope that happens. Rooting for Drake May and Hunter Henry this week. My running back start of the week, Brian Robinson Jr. versus the Dallas Cowboys.
B-Rob.
B-Rob is back from his injury, and he was fully back last week. There was no ease him in. He got a ton of opportunities. He's averaging a solid 13.5 fantasy points per game on 16 opportunities a game. In fact, around the goal line, and this is really where I love Brian Robinson, the goal line, he's tied with Joe Mixon for fifth most touchdowns inside the 10 with 7. He has as many 10-zone carries as James Conner or Alvin Kamara, despite the fact that he's missed 3 games. Now you look at the actual matchup against Dallas. The Commanders are the second highest team implied total of the week. They're 10.5-point home favorites. That's going to be leading to them running the ball at the end, and Dallas is pretty much the worst run defense in the league. They're 32nd in expected points versus the run, 31st in rushing yards allowed per game, 30th in total touchdowns to running backs, 20th. I mean, whatever metric you want to look, they suck against the run.
What about the charts? Are they on them, off them? What's the situation there?
They're like a black hole right in the middle of the charts
that
says target the running game here.
Got it. All right, we shall talk quarterbacks. How about that?
All right.
Haven't got to say this name a lot with confidence. I am very confident this week. C.J. Stroud. Nico Collins back. You saw the difference already. Yes, it was touchdowns on the ground through Joe Mixon, but moving the football is a lot easier with Nico Collins. A full allotment of snaps expected this week. No L'Jarius Sneed for the Tennessee defense. And at home, Stroud's over 300 yards, a 5% touchdown rate. He's very comfortable at home. Titans giving up a ton of points per game. I like C.J. Stroud this week. You have players on bye. You are in a situation where you might be wavering between a couple of quarterback options, and I think Stroud's going to give you his best performance of the year.
I'm going to give 2 starts of the week for quarterback.
Is that because Mike's not here?
Mike's not here, and there's also a player because
why don't you just give them all? How about every player?
Let me tell you all the players to play. It's called my rankings. You can see them at thefantasyfootballers.com. My start of the week is Bo Nix, who's been on fire. Bo Nix. He's been a top 12 quarterback 5 of his last 7 games. He was already the quarterback 9 versus the Raiders in week 5. He had 3 total touchdowns. They don't really have a good running game, which is part of what I love here. But he's been on fire, and the matchup against the Raiders, again, since week 3, you're talking about really exposed secondaries. 28th at scheduled adjusted fantasy points to quarterbacks, 30th in expected points added per pass attempt. Bo Nix should be really, really good. He's got a good rushing floor, and he's actually throwing touchdowns. But I also want to shout out to Baker Mayfield. Coming off the bye against the Giants, who have a good front, he gets Mike Evans back. That is probable at this point. I'm looking – yes, laser. My league of record team, Andy, and I'm still in it. I'm still fighting because the reason I'm bringing up Baker is because I've got C.J. Stroud, and I've got Geno Smith, and I've got Baker Mayfield on the team.
You have Stroud in league of record?
Yeah. That was part of the Herbert trade last week.
Oh, so you're making a decision
and
here.
I got to make a decision. And
Baker gets Mike Evans back.
As of right now, I'm going Baker.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Don't make the wrong pick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I hope not to.
Tight end start of the week is going to be Hunter Henry this week. He's run the most routes of all tight ends through 11 weeks, 5th in targets. Got a pile of targets last week. Plays Miami. Drake May can throw it. We'll be talking parlay partay later, but I know Drake May plays a part in that. Hunter Henry's just been very, very solid. A 21% target share in this offense, 7 targets a game, and that's a weak area for Miami. Miami defense is 29th against the tight end position. Brock Bowers had 16 targets and 13 catches against the same Miami defense last week. It's just where Miami chooses to let you work. So Hunter Henry, I think, is very solid this week.
Love that play. He should be really, really good. Obviously, these are the situations where all of a sudden maybe Austin Hooper ends up with 4 catches for 50 yards, and you're like, those are my Hunters. But I do
Don't be a party Hooper.
Well said. No? Okay. All right. Poorly said.
Yeah.
My tight end, this is Mike's not here to give me some special kind of underpants to put on, but This is
We don't have underpants control without him?
Do we have control of our underpants?
Do you have underpants? Turn that thing around.
I can dig it up, but yeah, that'd be faster.
Yeah, yeah. Look
pick
at that.
your pants.
I gotta find out where his pants are on this board.
Pick your under panties. There.
All right, I'm gonna look, and I'm going
titanium underpants.
Titanium underpants.
Oh,
yeah.
So if you've got injuries, if you've got bye weeks, and you need someone that's basically off the waivers into your lineup, I think it's Luke Schoonmaker.
Schoonman.
The Schoonmaker, he was fed in relief of Turd Ferguson last week. He saw.
Hold on.
Yeah, the
that
relief
sentence,
of the relief of the turd.
Schoonmaker was fed in relief of Turd Ferguson.
Yeah,
got it.
The people understand what I'm saying.
I got it.
When Ferg Daddy went down, he saw 10 targets. He was 6 for 56. He was targeted on 34% of his routes, leading the team. And it's easy to forget. I did forget this. I was talking to Mike because I was wanting to drop in our dynasty league that we co-managed together. I was wanting to drop the Schoon Man early before the season, and he's like, I forgot he was a second-round pick. This was a really highly drafted guy that he ended up losing the job to Fergalicious. And so Schoonmaker has his opportunity. The matchup is really good against Washington. Since week 6, they're 24th in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight end. I think that Cooper Rush targets Schoonman a lot.
All right, that's going to be our starts of the week. We will take a break and jump right into the fantasy forecast. Should be a good one. Is that jacket pretty comfortable there, Al? Do you like it? Are you a big fan?
I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. Here we go.
It's time for Fantasy Forecast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
I want you to edit this out after we finish recording.
Of course.
But you producers are great, and you do a great job, and we love you.
Yeah.
Consider it cut. But,
thank you.
But thank you.
Make sure that's not
don't let the people hear that.
Week 12 buys: Bengals, Bills, Falcons, Jags, Jets, and Saints. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's why I got Taysom Hill yesterday, by the way. It's because the bye week and people having needs and not being able to throw somebody on their bench.
Yeah, what's crazy is we have a bigger bye week in 2 weeks from now with more teams, but I think it is the specific teams this week that are gone that I feel like when I look around at all the leagues I'm in, and I'm in a lot of leagues, it seems like people that drafted a certain way all have these specific teams' players. And I look because there's teams that have no issues with bye weeks, or you have all of the bye weeks on your roster. I've got a couple of them that are that way. So it's tough, but it makes it quicker to get through the matchups.
Well, Minnesota at 8-2 taking on the 4-6 Chicago Bears. Now I'm getting word that Brooks has been booted from the Zoom. He has no clue.
Ooh.
He has no clue what's going on right now. Brooks
Wow.
is just fading into the dust. I thought he's been here. This has been a while. Brooks has not been a part of the show for the last 8 minutes.
Whoopsies.
Al's been too busy just soaking up your compliments.
Yeah, he's just over there modeling that jacket.
All right. We got Brooks with us now.
All
okay.
right, okay.
Poor,
Brooks is back.
Poor guy. Minnesota 8-2, Chicago 4-6. The DraftKings Sportsbook line, Minnesota -3.5. The over/under is 39. You know what?
Really?
You know what?
Wow.
Andy's almost upset of the week.
I don't know why, Jason, but that's the way I pick them. I pick them as I feel.
Yeah, I mean,
3.5, Chicago. I thought.
is it Thomas Brown? Is it Waldron being gone?
It is the fact that the Bears were competitive last week against the Packers, should have won the game on a last-second field goal. It is the fact that Minnesota has been good, not great recently. They have won 3 in a row. They have not all been smooth. And gross defensive battles, they have a way of being really close. Over-under is just 39 points. I don't know. I think I got it right last week. I think my almost upset last week panned out because I think I had Pittsburgh over Baltimore. And Pittsburgh ended up winning, so we'll see what happens in this one. Really, fantasy-wise, very disappointing week for Aaron Jones last week. This week, his DK rushing receiving line's 81.5. I don't know if Jason, he was dealing with the ribs.
They're going to need him in this one. It's very difficult to throw on the Chicago Bears. That's their strength and their defense, but where you can beat them is on the ground. And I think this Minnesota Vikings offense, if they want to have a good performance, get the W, they're going to need Aaron Jones to look better than he has looked really the last month. Week before last, he was okay, but that was Jacksonville. But the last month, he has not been great. Pretty inefficient and ineffective on the ground.
Yeah, he had a great start to the year. We've been talking a lot about the older statesmen at running back having big performances, but we have not yet seen the end of the season from these guys with maybe more tired legs and a lot more to deal with in bumps and bruises.
Aaron Jones will be started, but my eyes are going to be heavily on – like if he has another bad performance this week when they need him, when it's the softer part of the opponent's defense, I'm going to start kind of lowering Aaron Jones in my projections.
DeAndre Swift did not practice on Wednesday due to a groin injury. Groinindex.com, is he still up there?
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Roschon Johnson, much more heavily involved in the post-Shane Waldron. So this is one thing we got to keep in mind. The Bears' offense changed. And we see this every year where sometimes when there is an offensive coordinator shift, it's just like next man up. They're running the same system, and sometimes they change things, whether it's for the better or for the worse. We saw it last year with Joe Brady. The Bills were one offense the first half of the year and a different style of offense the second half of the year. It's too early to know definitively after one game what you're going to have from the Bears, but we have to be willing to shift our beliefs here of how the Bears function, maybe the pecking order of the wide receivers and the involvement of the running backs. Roschon was much more involved. Now, I don't really love either of these running backs against Minnesota. They are number 2 against the run. They're number 2 schedule adjusted for fantasy points given up to running backs, basically giving up 14.4 fantasy points per game to the running back entirety. So if you split that between DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson, I think without touchdowns, you're going to be pretty disappointed this week.
How are you feeling about DJ Moore right now? His receiving line's at 49.5. In his first game without Waldron, 7 catches, 62 yards. A lot of those were the little screen manufactured touches. Do you feel like he is a safe flex or a risky flex?
He is safer without Waldron. The fact that they were manufacturing some of those touches, I believe he had 4 screen passes.
Yeah, I was watching that game, and that's what I kept seeing.
And 4 total receptions was the most he had for the previous month. So it's certainly an upgrade. Also, Minnesota, they are a pass funnel defense. Wide receivers usually have success against them because their offense has been scoring and you can't really run on them. So DJ Moore is a scary flex right now, but I think you can flex him. The question, Keenan Allen, he shouldn't even be rostered in my opinion. I can't fathom having him on my roster.
Keenan on your roster or Westbrook-Ikhine?
I think Westbrook-Ikhine, and that neither is the real answer. I would not want either of those guys on my roster, but Rome Odunze in that first game, he had 10 targets, 6 for 65, led the wide receivers, and those two guys, DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, I think you can have as a scary flex option.
How concerned are you looking at the Minnesota side, looking at Jefferson's in your lineup, but Hawkinson was sub 50% of snaps for the 3rd consecutive week, just 3 targets. You successfully pulled off a pump and dump last week on the show. You moved him. I'm curious your opinion now.
Awful play. No, the end of the season, we talked about his schedule opens up for tight end matchups where they will utilize him.
Starting here.
Starting here.
23rd against tight end the last 6 weeks, the Bears.
Yeah, it's not a bad matchup for him. It's not as good as it gets down the stretch, and the playoffs are just so juicy for him, but he's still a definite start. Yes.
Do you feel like they're going to manage his snaps further knowing the playoffs are in the horizon?
So I do think that this is a player that they are obviously not having out there every snap, and I think that's more gas tank than anything. I don't think it's injury. I don't think they're worried about the knee or any of that. They gave him a lot of time to heal. I think it's getting him into football shape. And you saw it in some of these plays where it was like he was really good, sat in the zone in the right spot. He's big, he's strong, catches the ball, and then looks exhausted. As time continues to go, he'll only get better. 2 weeks ago, he was sub 50% of snaps, and he was 8 for 72. They're bringing him in to catch the ball, so I'm not worried about Hawkinson. I'm still very pro Hawkinson.
Pre-injury, his snap counts were at 81%, so if they're working towards that, that's where he ends up.
Yeah, he'll get there by, I think, by the end of the year.
The Detroit Lions at 9-1 take on the Indianapolis Colts in Indy. Colts are 5-6. The DraftKings Sportsbook line, Detroit on the road, 7.5-point favorites.
Wow.
Over-under is 50.5. That gives them a 29-point implied point total. This is just, to me, not – this is the – whatever the – if I had a button for the opposite.
Oh, really?
Like the least possible upset, this is the button for me because I think right now this matchup is just suboptimal for Anthony Richardson. What you have to do – I mean, you remember this from our old flag football days. I was a pretty good quarterback when the game was close. But if we got down by a couple scores,
man, then we'd get down by a couple more scores.
Yeah, you knew you gotta take more chances.
If you threw a pick,
I was Alex Smith. I needed to play with a lead or near the.
Yeah, if you threw a pick, you threw 4 picks. That's usually how the games go. You throw 4 touchdowns or 4 picks.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels a little bit like a problem to me in this one. I mean, Detroit's defense,
so I
top to bottom, is so good. I would be careful.
We pick every week just for fun. We pick against the spreads in like a pool, and this was actually one of the most difficult games for me to pick because that line being that large. You know, I talked about it on the Hungry for More. We don't know if anything has been fixed or improved with Anthony Richardson, but he obviously looked better in his one single game against the Jets. He's at home, and there is a world where the offense is getting better here, and that Anthony Richardson and his tools can work. I ended up picking the Lions. I went on that side because in the end, the Lions are just the best team in the NFL. Their defense is solid on all levels now. It used to be they've got the best rush defense in the world, but you can't throw on them. That's really gone away. You can't do much against them. They are very dominant, but they did lose their lasagna defender. Anzalone, there it is.
Lasagna?
Yeah, they're
poor guy. Didn't he break his arm?
Yeah, he'll be back, and he's going to be a huge part of their Super Bowl run. But for now, that hurts. Obviously, you lost Hutchinson. So
the Lions defense in the secondary, they play the highest percentage of man in the National Football League. Anthony Richardson is dead last in the NFL in completion percentage against man coverage. And so that's the biggest concern is that can he – where he's the weakest, Detroit's the strongest, and then they'll be pressed. I'm very concerned about it.
Is there any – are you confidently starting Josh Downs then, or are you thinking maybe you're going to look and see if you've got a better option than Downs?
I mean, I played Juwan Jennings over Josh Downs.
Well, sure, I'd play Juwan Jennings over almost everyone. But I'm saying –
okay, all right. I'm just giving you an example. I mean, if you're looking at –
yeah, would you play, say, Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown over him?
Okay.
Oh, you would? Okay.
I'd play Jaden Reed. I'd play Marvin Harrison. I'd play Jamison Williams.
Okay,
I'd play Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Playing Jamison Williams, I think that's the – if you'd play Jamison Williams in this same game over Josh Downs, that says Josh Downs is not an auto start.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor is an auto start.
I'd play Jerry Rice over him, Randy Moss.
So really here – and I guess the question comes down – so you would not play Anthony Richardson?
I'd try not to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Richardson has shown us that even when, you know, the run that he had, he looked good last week. It was against the Jets. The Jets are circling the drain. I think your risk is very high. I think you could still get an okay game, but we haven't actually seen that. All we've actually seen from we've not seen the middle game from Richardson.
Right.
We've actually only seen.
Like for 11 career games, it's either he's awesome for fantasy or he sucks.
Yeah, I mean, his bad games, his 5-game stretch was 20 or lower in the finish. So if you are not a crazy underdog, I just don't understand you taking the risk of single-digit points there. So Baker, Knicks obviously, Stroud, I would go all those guys. It gets pretty easy on the Lions side in terms of Gibbs, Monty, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, and then
even Laporta. The matchup is great if he's active, and it looks like the reports that were coming out, he was at practice, and Dan Campbell said that it's still iffy, but is leaning in the right direction. So
that's right.
I believe Laporta will play, and I'm going to start everyone. The question is just Goff.
Yeah, and you don't really play him. You might miss a great game, but I mean, to me,
he hasn't had many great games.
No, he's been on waiver wires.
It's tough when he's coming off of like a 40-point fantasy walloping to bench him. You want to keep the hot streak going with him.
The real question, would you play him or Richardson in this game? And I'd probably play Goff.
I would play Goff over Richardson.
Jonathan Taylor, it's going to be a tough one. Detroit's defense stonewalls the running back position. They have not let a running back hit 100 yards, and then now we know, like last week when they're on the goal line, Richardson ran 2 in. So if you don't hit 100 yards and you don't catch passes and you don't get a touchdown, it could be
rough. You're hoping that he gets
10
10
points.
points.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Now I believe it was Kenneth Walker earlier this year who had didn't he have a 3-touchdown game against Detroit? So crazy things can happen, and obviously you're going to bet on talent. Jonathan Taylor, one of the most talented running backs out there, so you got to start him.
Don't you remember?
I don't remember.
We built this city.
No Michael Pittman.
No, Pity City is the pits.
I thought of a different phrase. New England 3-8, Miami 4-6. DraftKings Sportsbook line Miami -7.5. Heavy favorites at home. Over under is 46 points. Miami beat the Patriots 15-10 with Tyler Huntley back in Week 5. They have been scoring points. They scored 27, 27, 23, 34 with Tua. Do you feel like there's anything that's going to change the way it looks like this game is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it can always change when you have a rookie quarterback that has shown enough to say, oh, he could take, he could elevate this team. When I look at Drake May play, certainly it doesn't always go well. 19 points against Chicago 2 weeks ago, 17 points against Tennessee 3 weeks ago wasn't outrageously great. But he's a rookie, and I do think that he could surprise here and keep them in this game. That's my hope. My hope is that they can keep the pace with the Dolphins so that the Dolphins have to keep scoring. You look at the Dolphins and how much they've given up to the tight end position, and you've got Hunter Henry, your start of the week. You've got Austin Hooper. You have the ability to attack that part of the field for the Patriots. And so I'm a little hopeful that they can keep it close.
I think maybe the perception of New England is a little bit off right now. They've won 2 of their last 4 games, right? So they won 25-22 and they won 19-3. In their 2 losses, they lost 20-17, so 3 points.
Very close.
And 22-28 against the Rams, 6 points. So they're not getting blown out. Like, they haven't lost by even the line in this game.
No, I took the Patriots to cover this line in our picks. I do believe it will be a little bit of a closer game, and it's obviously a divisional matchup.
Stevenson's the running back 20 on the year. You can play him, especially on a bye week riddled week like this one. Hunter Henry, start of the week. We talked about him. Kayshon Boutte, 6 targets in each of the last 4 games.
Oh, Mark of the Beast.
Playing a ton of – no, it's 4 straight games, Jason. That's 6-6-6-6.
Okay, but what's his last 3?
82, 96, 97, 96% snap count. He's always out there. So
he is.
If I'm taking a random shot, if I'm doing a DFS dart throw, I want him out there every play.
I do not.
You want them
well,
on the bench?
No, I want him out there every play. I don't want Boutte this week. You've got Pop Douglas over the last couple weeks as well. You know, games with 9 targets, 7 targets. He's involved as well. The Dolphins.
Boutte or Waddle?
Waddle. The Dolphins' pass defense has been very, very good. You know, schedule adjusted, they're top 3 against wide receivers, top 5 against quarterbacks, and you know, you usually beat them on the ground. So I feel like Hunter Henry is fine. Ramondre on a bye week is okay, and then you check out from the Patriots side of the ball.
Jonnu Smith after the big week, and he's been performing, or Hawkinson. Do you like Jonnu or Hawkinson?
I still like Hawkinson better.
Andrews or Jonnu Smith?
Andrews.
Ertz or Jonnu Smith?
Jonnu Smith.
Okay. Tyreek Hill's in your lineup. Achan's in your lineup. Mostert is benched, hopefully. He has been doing nothing. And Jalen Wright's benched because he's been doing nothing as well. It's really been Achan and no one else.
And let me be clear, Jalen Waddle should be benched. So I just answered I would play him over Boutte, but that's not a
sentence. That's impressive.
We're talking wide receivers 40s, 50s. You know, not the order of them at that point. It doesn't really matter.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-6, off the bye, travel to New York and take on the 2-8 Giants, who will have a new quarterback. DK Sportsbook line here. Tampa -6. Over-under's 41.5, so it's pretty low. 23-17 is the line, or 24-18. Both teams coming off the bye, actually, and Buccaneers have lost 4 in a row. They've been close. They've been fighting. They've been trying.
I can't believe they've lost 4 games in a row.
It doesn't feel that way.
All 4 of those games
they won our hearts during those games.
They did. They played good football and took a bunch of L's. So this is a team coming off a bye who still has playoff aspirations, like unlike the Giants.
That's like Al's league of record team.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's very similar.
They're out there, they're fighting, they're doing a good job, but they can't play defense.
Yeah, Al, your team is like you look good. You look like a scary team.
Yeah.
You might miss the playoffs, but
great team.
But it's super good team.
Bad points against though.
Yeah, I don't know why you're managing.
I think he's just
so poorly.
He just upsets the other owners in the league. They score a lot of points against them.
He just hypes them. He gives them a lot of chalkboard material.
Not friendly. You know what I mean?
You're putting up posters about what he said.
He's going to shoot us.
Yep.
Tommy DeVito will start for the Giants. Baker Mayfield is your bonus start of the week, Jason. And you'd play him over Geno. You'd play him over Tua. You'd play him over Love?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan Love, too?
No. I think I would. We've got to remember how good Baker has been this year.
He is the 5th-ranked quarterback in fantasy.
On the course of the season, I believe he's quarterback 4, but maybe scoring changes. The last 2 weeks, he had slightly down weeks. That was against Kansas City and against San Francisco, and that was without Mike Evans. You got to give the guy a little bit of a break with a bad toe. Now he's coming off a bye with Mike Evans. I'm going to keep assuming that Baker has it. And they need – I mean, this is a must-win game for them. They are truly a team still competing for the playoffs, and they're playing against a team who's seemingly trying to get the best pick they can now.
Cade Otton, very solid start, although the Giants have been the best team against the tight end position. His line is 51.5.
Jalen McMillan, a full participant in Wednesday. This is great coming off the bye. Maybe a little bit scarier.
Dude, I don't want to. I honestly don't want to talk about Jalen McMillan ever again. Like Jalen McMillan has done jack crap for anybody ever since he's been talked about. Like ever since the injuries, he's done nothing. 3 for 15, 4 for 35, missed a game, and then was a goose because he was active in Week 10 but didn't play a snap.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't think he's worth talking about till he has a game. I genuinely think.
So here's why. Let me make
with
the argument.
Evans back. He didn't do it without Evans.
Let me make the argument for it. I realize he didn't have big fantasy productive games. However, I think he's a good wide receiver, good tape, rookie coming in. He had 8 targets and then 7 targets post Chris Godwin. Then he got injured, and we haven't seen him since then. You say, oh, he was active, and it was basically like. You call it a healthy scratch, but he was injured. He didn't play.
I understand that he had targets in those 2 games, but he did not have production. And they have other players that they've also started to work into the offense. Sterling Shepard's been out there a lot. Otten has taken over. Mike Evans is coming back. Rashad White started getting more receptions. I just think it's not worth.
You don't want him hurting your Cade Otten. I see through you.
He can't. He's proven he can't.
Okay,
he can't hurt them. He's helped them by not being good.
We'll see. I don't think he's going to end up hurting Cade Otten.
The way.
I don't think he's going to hurt Cade Otten. Cade Otten, I believe, is established rest
He's not hurting anybody.
But I would still, like Jalen McMillan, if he was on waivers, I would want him on my team. A rookie with opportunity could surprise. On the other side of the ball, I almost made Malik Neighbors my start of the week. I think he is worthy of that because I wanted, you worry. Like he hadn't been producing much with Daniel Jones, and now you go down to Danny DeVito, and you're like, can I start him? Yes, I believe you can start him, especially in this matchup. There's really no secondary for the Bucs, and that's why they've lost these games. They've lost 4 games in a row. It's because their secondary is non-existent.
Tyron Tracy is a definite start this week, averaging nearly 19 opportunities a game. I think you could play both Irving and Rashad White. That's been an area the Giants have become softer and softer in, defending the running back. Bucky's been getting more and more praise from the head coach. 68.5 is the rush receiving line. Bucky's looked good. Bucky's had big fantasy production as well. He's actually been kind of under the radar really good since about his opportunity, when it started up in week 3, on pace since then for 51 receptions, 170 attempts on the ground, almost 9 touchdowns.
I would be playing both of those running backs because I think it's funny. Bucky came onto the scene and I feel like got a lot of publicity while Rashad White was looking poor at the beginning of the year. And now under the radar is both of them because Rashad White's been good. Rashad White's, for the last month before the bye, he was double digits in all of those games, had 2 games where he was a top 10 running back. So I think you start both players.
All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll jump into a couple more matchups.
Before we move on,
alrighty,
well, hold on here. Let me look here at these underpants.
What is happening? What is going on?
I'm just saying, I think Tommy DeVito is going to be an okay play this week. He had 5 games started last year as a rookie. In those games, he was on pace for over 500 rushing yards, which is great. The matchup is good against Tampa Bay. And I'm not saying as a single quarterback start, but in Superflex leagues.
You can keep things in your head, man. You can keep things in your head.
Unobtainium underpants,
man. You don't have to put them on.
They're already on. I can't get them off.
No,
I don't know how to take them off.
Who on earth? You just want this out in the ether? You
No,
just want the world to hear you and Tommy DeVita?
There are DeVita? The DeVita Loca? What are we doing here?
I did. Yeah, that was in my head.
No, but there are leagues where you are. I mean, I've had multiple Superflex leagues where I don't have a quarterback to play because of bye weeks, or if you had picked up Tommy DeVito and you don't have a second quarterback, I think he's okay in a Superflex. That's what I'm saying. This isn't like a must start, Tommy Cutlets, but I think he's going to be a top 20 quarterback this week.
Dallas is 3-7. The Commanders are 7-4. It's in Washington. And Washington 10.5-point home favorites. The over-under is 45.5. It is becoming increasingly difficult to create a hypothetical world in which Dallas can do enough on offense to defeat its opponent on any given week. That is the challenge. Their implied point total here, 17.5. The over-under is 45.5. That gives the Commanders almost 30 points. Dan Quinn, you've seen his departure and the impact it's had on Dallas. They are the worst team in the league, or rather, let's put it positively, everyone's favorite team to run on.
Yeah, when you talk about the running game, I mean, this is why I've got Brian Robinson as my start of the week. His DK rushing line is 69.5 yards. Nice. Very nice. On the other side, you can make the argument, okay, Washington Commanders, who came out and shocked the world with how good they are. They've lost the last 2 games in a row. So if for some reason this game goes awry and the Dallas Cowboys, with Cooper Rush come in and beat them, I think people are going to start freaking out about the Commanders. But it's probably not going to happen. So.
The Commanders lost by 1 point against Pittsburgh. They lost by 1 score against Philadelphia. I get it.
I mean, they're going to win.
You're not wrong. They'll panic. I think people want to see Jaden Daniels return to form in terms of fantasy production.
Yes.
He's only hit 20 fantasy points once in the last 5 games, and the truth is when a rookie quarterback comes out and is on fire like that, we want to believe that the rest of his career is predetermined, and it's not. It's just not the case. The last 5 weeks, I mean, he hasn't finished. What's it been? Highest finish was quarterback 9 on a week. That's the first time since week 5. That's his highest finish. That's a long run.
Yeah, he has not.
He's the quarterback 6 on the year still.
Through the first month of the season, he was top 10 3 of the 4 times. He was the quarterback 3, the quarterback 4, the quarterback 7, and since that month, the first month of the season, like you said, he hasn't been higher than the quarterback 9. It's been kind of a.
Would you worry about that going into the fantasy playoffs if you had him as your quarterback?
I would not, because I think that the first week against the Saints and the championship week against the Falcons are good matchups. This matchup is one where you have a path to worry, because they're 10.5-point favorites. That's great. They should score a lot of points. But Brian Robinson in the running game can just eat up the Dallas Cowboys. And now all of a sudden, if you don't get a second half from Jaden Daniels because the game's out of hand.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about that.
I'm starting him.
Jaden Daniels got 28-point implied point total. I think he's going to be a big part of that.
Well, and at least the rushing defense that is so bad against running backs, it will also be bad against Jaden Daniels himself.
Back on the horse with Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you talked about the lockdown nature of the last opponent for Terry McLaurin. He's the wide receiver 6 on the season. Last week was a huge dud game, but that was the first dud game since week 2.
Comfortable with Austin Eckler. He's been putting up great numbers, running back 16, 6, and 14 last week, even with Robinson back. Flexworthy?
I mean, he's looked great all season as far as on film, so I am fine in this matchup. 10.5-point favorites, that's where you can share duties and put them in. Like next week they play the Tennessee Titans. I think a much better run defense. I wouldn't start Eckler there.
Speaking of duties, the Cowboys offense. The Schoon Man is your titanium underpants start of the week if you are desperate. But really, it's CeeDee Lamb, and that's it.
Yeah,
in terms of confidence plays, CeeDee Lamb seems like the only one to talk about. 6.5 reception line, primary target.
Well, in honor of Mike, we've got to discuss Rico Dowdle. I
just did when I said that CeeDee Lamb's your only start.
Okay, all right.
That was my way of speaking about Dowdle.
Dowdle was not good last week. Only 2 receptions. Only 10 carries. I don't think you can start him here, especially in a game where you are down. I will say that
single digits in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, my Schoonmaker start of the week, if I had to decide between him and Zach Ertz, I would actually go Schoonman. Because while we talk about, hey, Jaden Daniels has a 28-point implied total, and so he could get his, I don't think it has to come in the passing game that much, and I don't think they're going to need to be airing. Like, how many times do you think Jaden Daniels throws the ball this game? I don't think he goes north of 30. And so
yeah, probably 30, 33, 34.
So it's like it's a small pie, whereas for the whole game you're going to have Cooper Rush. I think you're going to end up towards the end of the game with some prevent defense where Schoonman just has 4 or 5 receptions in the fourth quarter.
The Chiefs are 9-1, the Panthers are 3-7, and the Chiefs get to go play them in Carolina. The sportsbook line here, Kansas City -11, over-under is 43. Jason was disturbed, maybe that's the wrong word, displeased when I outbid him for the Chiefs' defense this week.
Yeah, that was really upsetting. I needed them.
Every waiver wire, I like it when everyone in the studio is unhappy with me. That means I did my job.
Yeah, good job. Good work.
But the Chiefs this week, it looks really good against Bryce Young and company. His passing line for touchdowns is 0.5.
Yeah, 0.5.
Yeah.
So it's like, will he throw one or will he not? and I would probably take the under.
Yeah, it's not great. It's also hard right now to have any confidence in any wideout, especially in this matchup. So this is the wait and see week. Does Thielen get a lot of opportunities in PPR? We'll find out this week with him on your bench. Is Xavier Legette worked into the offense as the centerpiece?
Find out with him on your bench.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jonathan Brooks expected to make his long-awaited debut, rookie second-round running back draft pick.
And we'll learn about him
from your bench.
From your bench. And the only player you can play on the entire team is Chuba Hubbard. But even his rushing line is 49.5.
Yeah, that's not great.
Isn't that below Bucky Irving?
And you don't know how much Jonathan Brooks is going to eat into that. I fully expect Chuba Hubbard to have the lead role in this game. I don't think Jonathan Brooks comes in and makes it 50-50. But you're going to lose, I think, some of the passing work to Jonathan Brooks. And this is a terrible matchup. How bad? Well, over the last 6 weeks, Chiefs are number 1 against running backs. Over the season, they're number 1. But if you adjust for schedule over the course of the season, also number 1. So they do not give up a lot on the ground to running backs.
And what would you defend against if you were facing the Carolina Panthers? Like, of all their skill position players, what would you possibly try to stop?
I would focus on not Bryce Young.
Yeah, I'd focus on the run. It's troublesome. Mahomes?
I would prefer to not start him, to be honest. Now, he's been much better.
You'd play Jordan Love. You'd play Bo Nix.
Yes, I'd play Bo Nix. I'd play Baker Mayfield. He has he's thrown some touchdowns. You know, he threw 3 touchdowns this last week, and going back 2 weeks before that, 3 touchdowns. So there's some light. There's some light there. But at the same time, you know, he's not hitting 20 fantasy points. He's literally only hit that once this entire season, and this is the type of game where it's probably not going to be competitive.
Any renewed excitement about Xavier Worthy after his 4 for 61 first drive last week? He then inexplicably did the thing where he catches a long pass and has it's super easy to get both feet in, and he doesn't still somehow. I mean, he would have had another like 40, 50 yards down the field all alone, doesn't get his feet in. But
it was a little nice to see, in so much as I think that's the packages going forward. Now that Juju Smith-Schuster was back and Hopkins wasn't the like Rashee Rice role, and they kind of just utilized Xavier Worthy in I think slightly better ways. But I don't want to start him. I'm not going to start him in this matchup.
Are you learning about this new Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco rotation with either of them on your bench? Because Pacheco could be back out there. Andy Reid said they're going to find a way. Both are good players in terms of getting them snaps. Try to get them both in there. Are you scared?
I don't think Pacheco plays this week. I will be very surprised. He's eligible. The reports last week were he's aiming for this week to play. So I mean, be prepared. It's just my presumption after following this for the whole season.
You think next week, week 13?
Yeah, I think week 13.
So in that case, Hunt is in.
Yeah, TBD.
Super,
Hunt is
in.
Hunt is in either way.
Okay.
If Pacheco is active, Hunt is 100% in. The question is, if Pacheco is active against the Panthers, 32nd against running backs, a game you're going to be up, could you start both of them? I'd like to give it a week because I don't know how much work they'll give Pacheco first game back.
Especially if they don't need him.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, so Hunt is no matter what in. Pacheco is like a prayer if he's active, but I don't think he's going to be active.
There was a lot of excitement around DeAndre Hopkins 3 weeks ago when he went 8 for 86 with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we've seen from Hopkins in the last 2 to 3 years is he has those games. Even with Tennessee, he had those games. With Arizona towards the tail end, he had those games where it looked kind of vintage Hopkins. Always makes a competitive catch, great around the red zone. The last 2 weeks, 4 for 56, no scores. 3 for 29, no scores. The snap count down to 47% last week against Buffalo with Juju's return. We talked about Worthy.
Yeah, Juju. I don't.
Are you worried about Hopkins at this point?
Yeah, a little bit worried because Juju coming in and kind of splitting the role there, which allows Xavier Worthy to have an elevated role himself. You just don't know where the targets are going to go.
You're seeing McCall Hardman out there again.
And I fully expect Travis Kelce to stay very, very involved. Obviously, last week, 2 catches for 8 yards.
Noah Gray?
Huge letdown. Noah Gray was the one at the tight end position that got it done. But the previous 3 weeks, you had Kelce with 12 targets, 10 receptions, 16 targets, 14 receptions, 12 targets, 8 receptions. So you're not moving. I'm not terrified there.
Let me ask you this, just giving you some names to compare with Hopkins in your confidence level. Tank Dell against Tennessee or DeAndre Hopkins? Those guys are back-to-back in my rankings this week.
This week against Tennessee, I'm going to go Tank.
What about Waddle or DeAndre Hopkins?
I'll go Hopkins.
What about DJ Moore?
I'll go DJ Moore.
Okay. Calvin Ridley?
Ridley.
Josh Downs?
Downs.
Okay. So that's where we're at with Hopkins. You can see all of the weekly rankings on the site, thefantasyfootballers.com, or you can get the app, the Fantasy Footballers app on iOS or Android, and see the rankings on there. Start sit tool. I think that covers that game pretty well.
Does that mean it's time to party?
I think it's time for some parlay partay. Could I get a crown, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. It is good to wear the crown.
Yes, sir. We three kings. You're looking good, Jay Grizz.
This week was good. This week was good. Jay Grizz has got the crown on.
So this
too.
last week, Andy, you had Calvin Ridley more than 50 receiving yards. He had 58. I had Bijan Robinson over 3.5 receptions. He had 4. And Mike with George Pickens over 60 receiving yards. He had 89.
We both. This is the second straight week you had a panic attack because you thought you didn't get your number, and then you just checked the box score, and then Bijan had one more catch than we saw.
Yeah, Achan 2 weeks ago, Bijan this last week, where I'm counting the catches, just watching the game and feeling like I'm one behind, and what was crazy is like to start the game, Bijan had like 3 receptions, like right off the bat.
Oh yeah, the first drive.
He had
first 2 drives, I think.
90% of the game to get another catch, and apparently I missed that catch until way late in the game, and I looked at the box score.
Yeah,
I was like, throw the ball.
All right, this week we do have Mike's pick for him as he's out of town. He is going with Nico Collins, unsurprisingly, 70-plus receiving yards against Tennessee. He looked really good last week, scored on the first play of the game, didn't count. But a full allotment of snaps is in the cards, no L'Jarius Sneed. We talked about it.
That makes a huge difference.
Earlier, and it's a good matchup. So he's going 70-plus with Nico. I'm going 25-plus receiving yards for Devon Achane against New England. With Tua this year, he's been over that line in 5 of 6 games. He is how this offense moves the football.
Well, and the nice thing about that is that could be 1 reception. Like with a guy like Devon Achane
That's why
in
I
this
took
matchup,
that instead of his total reception line. I just feel like I like the receiving yards more than the total reception.
I'm almost always a volume over yards type of player, just personal conviction. But on this line, it makes complete sense, and I love it. My pick this week is I'm taking Brock Bowers over 5.5. It's a high line.
5.5 receptions.
5.5 receptions, so he's got to get to 6. He's averaging 7 receptions per game. Last week he had 16 targets, 13 receptions with Gardner Minshew. And against these Broncos, his matchup this week, in week 5, he went 8 for 97 and a touchdown. And then my favorite part about how good a game he had against the Broncos is they lost the game, like it wasn't close. So this isn't like, how do we fix it? It's just
they're stuck with Minshew.
Yeah, just repeat week 5 and let Brock get his catches.
Yeah, that was Fantasy Forecast presented by DraftKings Pick 6. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code BALLERS. That's the code BALLERS for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. I don't know if there's a player I'm more afraid to play in the fantasy playoffs than the team that has Brock Bowers. I'm genuinely afraid of that. That's like if your tight end doesn't show up and you're facing the Brock Bowers manager, you're toast.
The thing is about Brock Bowers is he's going to have maybe one more dud game the rest of the season. His touchdownless domination is so incredible that you don't need usually for a tight end to have a great game, they've got to have a touchdown. You just don't need that with Brock Bowers. And then what if you get it?
He is simultaneously the check down guy for the team and their number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And God forbid he starts scoring touchdowns.
He's a deep throw. Oh, don't worry. Gardner will take care of that. He won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brock is so good.
Yeah, he's a really good football player, and the Raiders were smart to have taken him, even though it didn't seem like the pick that they needed to make.
There are certain players who just make things look so easy that you almost question if they're really great. And I know that sounds weird. Like when I watch Justin Jefferson, I know he's great. I watch the sideline catch. He's unbelievable. But also, he's just always wide open. Like, why doesn't the defense decide to guard him ever?
Yeah. No, I get it.
It's him.
Yeah. No, it's what Kelsey.
Brock Bowers looks like he's doing
Kelsey
nothing.
was for years.
100%. Kelsey's just like casually walking down the field.
Yeah,
it
but
looks
always
like,
open.
and faster than everyone.
All right, thank you for joining us today. We got more matchups tomorrow, the Fantasy Face-Off, and we'll catch you up on all the injury news. Don't miss it tomorrow. Take it easy.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.